Hi everyone, this is Digitalk with Bimulus. The purpose of this podcast is to raise built environment digitalization awareness amongst industry, showcase Singapore's efforts on built environment digitalization such as BIM, IDD and IPD, and look at digitalization worldview through the lens of Singapore. Every month of the last Friday, we'll be inviting guests to discuss the latest BIM trends happening in the world. We look forward to you following our podcast. Thank you. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome to Digitalk with Bimulus. This is on our seventh installment. Today's guest, we have Ar William Lau here today to join us to talk about the DDM accreditation from builtSmart Singapore. So William used to be the past president of builtSmart Singapore. So we have invited him here, and it's an honor to have him here today to talk a bit on DDM accreditation and what exactly builtSmart Singapore is doing. So morning to you, William. So can you give us a bit of introduction of yourself?
Hi, morning, Chris. Yeah, glad to be here. Okay, I'm William Lau. I'm doing my own architectural practice. However, because of my early days involvement with when Singapore building industry moved to digital realm, that's why I was involved in most of the digital initiative here. I'm also the past president of builtSmart Singapore. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah. So glad to be here and share some of this, especially on this DDM, Digital Delivery Management Accreditation Scheme with you.
Yeah. So before we get into the details of what DDM is all about, could you give us a brief introduction as to what builtSmart Singapore does generally?
Sure. builtSmart Singapore is actually an open and neutral non-profit organization. Our mission basically is to integrate into the built environment consisting of architects, engineers, project managers, BIM managers, and facility managers to work together using IFC as the de facto interoperability tool to improve communication and data exchange throughout the life cycle of the project process. We're also looking at other digital delivery tools to support our local digital transformation initiative, now known as Integrated Digital Delivery, or IDD in short. Yeah.
Okay. And how is BSS builtSmart Singapore affiliated to builtSmart International then?
All right, builtSmart Singapore is one of the founding country chapters of builtSmart International. builtSmart International started in actually 1995, right? Then it was known as International Alliance for Interoperability, or IAI in short. It's a mouthful. However, in 2005, it changed its name from that IAI to builtSmart International to reflect basically what they are doing. Currently, there are about 31 country chapters that span across the world. Right. Again, builtSmart International is a global non-profit organization. However, its main aim is to drive the digital transformation of the built asset industry. It's committed to improvement of the industry by creating an adoption of open international standard and solutions for infrastructure and buildings. So what happened is that it's actually developed and maintained a set of open standard known as Industry Foundation Class, or IFC in short. It is a neutral data format that can be used to represent information about buildings and infrastructure throughout the project life cycle. So it's commonly known as, IFC is commonly known as the PDF for BIM, right? Because it is able to, by using IFC, is able to actually exchange information from one software to another software. So in fact, builtSmart is the custodian for that. Yeah, and it started from then until now. It's already developed as an ISO standard. It's called 16739. And Singapore recently has just did an identical adoption of this ISO standard, and is now referred to as SSISO 16739-1 2023, which will be available for purchase online locally.
Okay. Okay. And now back to the Digital Delivery Management Accreditation Scheme. So for BSS, how do we actually work on the accreditation process?
Okay, the Digital Delivery Management Accreditation, or DDM in short, is actually a certification program that validates the knowledge and skill sets of professionals in the field of digital delivery management, mainly in the construction industry. So this competency framework is in alignment with Skills Future Singapore that actually maps out all the respective competency requirements for all the roles in the various sectors in the economy, not just the building industry, it's a whole economy. So it's a very comprehensive and detailed so-called framework. This program is jointly developed by Building Construction Authority, BCA, and builtSmart Singapore is the certification body that oversees and implement the accreditation scheme. Well, this DDM program is actually designed to help professionals develop the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in the field of digital delivery management. It is a valuable tool for employers who are looking to hire qualified DDM professionals.
Yeah. And I believe the accreditation is broken into 4 tiers. You have your assistant specialist, you have the specialist, your lead, and also your chief digital officer. So could you briefly explain what these tiers means in these 4 areas?
Okay, we have actually divided 4 tiers, like rightfully what you've mentioned. The entry level is actually tier 4, what we call it as an assistant specialist. In the normal day-to-day terminology, I think these are referring to the normal BIM modelers, right? Their task involves probably normal project delivery, right? Producing the necessary project information. They will create and share project information, and using essentially they will do the modeling, models and all that. Modeling of the BIM models, of course, in the respective software, because there are many BIM authoring softwares, right? And the next tier is called tier 3. We call it a specialist in the day-to-day term. They are known as BIM coordinators in the industry. So again, their role is more involved in project delivery, collaboration, and information management. So they need to actually use the right digital solutions to address business challenges, participate in project collaboration. So in other words, while the modelers may be good in certain so-called discipline, right? Because we have the architecture, structure, and the MEP discipline, the coordinators are expected to know more than that. That means they are able to even handle at least 1 or 2 other disciplines other than the discipline that they are the base discipline from where they're working. So in order to coordinate the BIM model. So the next tier will be the tier 2. We call it the lead the lead. In the common term, the commonly known as a BIM manager. So this role again is more on a higher management level. They will oversee the development and implementation of the project, as well as the so-called the roadmap in terms of how the project is going to run from inception all the way to completion. So again, they actually have to oversee the implementation of the project delivery, right through from design to construction to completion. Of course, they will actually oversee the people, the professional that work below them, namely the tier 3 and the tier 4s, right? The highest tier, the tier 1, right? We call it the CDO or Chief Digital Officer. Normally in most company setup, this person will be probably the BIM project director, right? He actually oversees all the BIM project teams in the company, right? And not only that, he actually have to drive organizational digital transformation in company to ensure that the company progresses or able to level up the digital competency. So there are quite a lot of things also in terms of ensuring the project running. I mean, as far as digital delivery concerned, running smoothly. They also have to look at the strategic so-called digital roadmap of a company. So in other words, how to ensure that they are performing well as far as the peers are concerned, and where possible, they have to level up the competency in order to so-called compete in this digital delivery mode, right, throughout the industry. Yeah.
And
So these are the 4 tiers.
okay. And say for example, if I'm I want to be accredited to the first tier, which is the tier 4.
Tier 1.
Tier 1. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I want to get into tier 1, and let's say I do get myself accredited as a assistant specialist. And then a year later, or 2 years later, I'm now a bit more taking up more lead role in the company. And does the process restarts again for the accreditation?
Sorry, I got you wrong. So what you're talking about is actually you're coming in as an entry level at tier 4.
Yeah.
Okay, the whole accreditation scheme is actually based on experience and competency based. So in
Okay.
other words, we actually place a lot of emphasis on what you've done, right? It means your past experiences, etc. So if you start off as an entry level at tier 4, probably you have to gain the so-called the experience as you run projects and all that before you go to the tier 3. Of course, in addition to your daily experience, you're also encouraged to go for courses, which is approved by builtSmart, right? We actually list out the number of courses, and from there, it helps to so-called chalk up your competency level as you apply for the next level. I'll describe more about the how you apply and what are the requirements later on. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think earlier on you mentioned that this will help professionals in their career. So say that you're accredited. So how does this help the professionals to in their career prospect when they get accredited?
Okay, maybe how should I compare it? Okay, let's say we take professional architects. Let's say for architects, when you enter into a firm, probably you start as a junior architect, right? And then after some time, the firm will promote you to the next level. You may be a so-called move all the way to executive, then senior architect, and then maybe move up to director level. But there are no, I would say, set step how can you achieve the next level. However, in this accreditation scheme, right, we actually provide a guidance or a benchmark whereby you are able to upgrade yourself, right, through the accreditation scheme, that you are able to, in a way, set a career path, right? So that you are able to say if you come in at entry level and you know exactly what are the so-called skill set required and what are the experience you're supposed to gain in order for you to get yourself ready to be upgraded or to apply to the next higher level. So in other words, it's a career path progression from entry, and then you upgrade your competency. to the next level accreditation. It's also served as a benchmark, right, to ensure that a person with this accreditation, right, you can assure that he has the required skill set to perform the role as a digital delivery, right, in that particular tier. In addition, actually, the scheme allows a horizontal progression. That means professionals in other tracks, if they have the required skill set, because they can find out what are the requirements, they can actually jump into the track, right? They do not need to say coming from the lowest tier. Let's say if a person may be working many years of experience doing BIM projects, right? He can actually come and apply for BIM manager straight away, the tier 2, right? Provided he qualifies for, I mean, there are certain set criteria. Once he fulfill all those, he can actually apply for tier 2 or tier 3. You don't have to say like climb all the way from tier 4. Yeah.
And
I think it not only benefits the individuals, I guess for companies who are hiring so-called BIM professionals, also give them a sense of assurance in terms of competency level. Because as you know, nowadays salary is getting higher and higher. So companies are very mindful when they pay a certain salary for a BIM manager, for instance. How can they be assured that this person will have the skill set, I mean, although he has claimed in his CV, he's done all these things, but how can the company be sure? Because they're paying quite a good dollar to hire this person. So if a person comes in with this accreditation of a tier 2, then in a way it's benchmarked with all the people in the industry, and the company have the assurance that, okay, I'm paying, since you have this accreditation, and I'm quite assured that you can perform the role. A minimum performance is assured of. That's what a company is concerned. Now, for procurers, let's say developers or owners who are looking for companies, right, to do a digital project. By looking at the numbers of BIM professionals accredited in a company, you also give them a sense of assurance or comfort that, oh, this company has got so many BIM managers, so many tier 2 and tier 3 and all that. It gives them the confidence that at least this company has got the correct, in terms of the manpower setup, with the correct skill set to be able to participate in the digital delivery process. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic to hear. It works well for the professionals and also for the company as well in terms of achieving a certain benchmark of competency level. So I believe there is processes of how you get yourself accredited. Can you speak a bit more about the processes? If let's say I want to come in at an entry level, where do I go for? Look for this information, and how then what are the things that I need to do to get myself accredited?
It's gonna take 2 hours.
Maybe
Very
just very briefly.
very simple. In fact, there is a website you can apply actually online. It's called ddm.builtSmartSingapore.org. Okay. Once you go into this, in fact, there is actually a self-help built in within this website to help you or to guide an applicant on what to do and all that. In fact, we even have samples of logbooks and the forms are there to guide the applicants. Okay, basically, the process actually involved is first of all, let's start at the entry level, tier 4, right? For tier 4, of course, you need to have the so-called correct experience and all. So you have to write in a way, not so much of a logbook, but you have to write in what are your, say, educational qualifications, right? You've gone through certain courses that we actually recognize, especially in the IHLs, the polys and all that. They actually have, if they run through all those, actually they automatically qualify for provisional tier 4. And all they need to do is to get another 1 year of working experience, so they work in a company, right? Then after that, they just apply for the Tier 4 accreditation. And when you make the application, they need to do a modeling test, because Tier 4 basically is a assistant specialist, so they minimal skill set is that they are able to uh, do a model, a BIM model. So this is a test requirement. So once they cleared that, right, they will be accredited with a Tier 4. Okay. Next in line for the Tier 2 and Tier 3, again, they have to apply, but they have to fill in a logbook, which is quite important requirement, and that is one of the key assessment that we look at. We actually go through by submitting the logbook. It has to be actually endorsed by their peers. Peers meaning either their seniors or the HR managers, right? Doing that particular project. So they'll list down the BIM project they are involved in, what are their roles, and what have they done, right, in terms of the whole digital delivery. So with that, we can, because it's actually endorsed by or signed off by another person or peer, we can actually call that person to cross-check, right, to ensure that this person actually really did what he claimed to be in the logbook. Okay, so once the logbook assessment is done and successful, the applicant will have to take assessment tests. It's actually a multiple choice question test, of which he has to actually secure at least a 75% so-called pass mark. The test is structured such that the questions are actually randomly picked. Right? We have actually a question bank of almost about 600 questions, and these will be randomly picked, and they have to do the answer. And the range of question will cover the skills framework competency, right? So in other words, once you are able to answer the minimum so-called the passing mark, you are deemed to understand or deemed to know or deemed to have the competency required at that particular tier, right? So two important criteria. One is the logbook to show your experience, and secondly, you have to pass the assessment test. This is relevant for Tier 2 and Tier 3. Okay. Then for the highest tier, the Chief Digital Officer, Tier 1, you will also have to submit a logbook, but in this logbook, you're supposed to give slightly different, rather than, okay, you have to do a basic so-called experience. However, you have to so-called show us that you are competent enough to actually plan or to have a strategic digital roadmap for the company, right? And then instead of taking an assessment test, you'll be interviewed by assessment panel, right? The assessment panels are made up of other equivalent people with the relevant experience, and usually we are benchmarking them as a minimum CDOs as well, right? They are already as a CDO, so they are able to assess whether you have the competency to be a CDO of the company. So once you have done that, of course, then you will be accorded the Tier 1 accreditation. So all the accreditation are valid for 2 years. Okay, and then after the 2 years, right, you can either do two things. One is you can, if you feel that you have acquired the necessary additional competency that will enable you to upgrade yourself to the next tier, you can apply for the next tier, right, at the end of 2 years. If not, you can also maintain the same accreditation level by doing what is known as a continuous professional development, or CPD in short. Is very common in the industry, whereby you actually have to take appropriate courses, and we actually allow a certain number of hours of self-learning as well. So you can show us that you have taken these courses and you have done some self-learning, right? And you can apply to so-called to maintain your same level of accreditation. Then that will be valid for another 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. It's good to know that the professionals has this different tiers of maintaining it every 2 years. And also there are avenues for us to move from one tier to the higher level. And hopefully, eventually everyone can reach at a level, a CDO level, and then bring out the entire BIM competency standard across the entire of Singapore. And
Right.
hopefully, and the accreditation process is anyone can do it, right? As long as they can show proof that they have the relevant, they're working in the B sector and they have the relevant qualifications. Anyone can
Yes.
just sign up now. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Like I said, the skill is this based on the skill future framework. So it's very so-called skewed towards to support our local industry. So what main requirement is that you have to work a minimum of 2 years in Singapore, right? And then by working in a company and by actually doing a project delivery role, you acquire the so-called experience. All the details are actually you can go to the website. You look at the details. It's actually tabulated. So from there you can. In fact, we have an assessment so-called process initially, right? Whereby you make an application, you key in the necessary experience that you have. Then the system will be able to generate to try to predict at which level you can actually apply for, right? Then from there, you can look at all the details requirement, the necessary qualification that you need, the number of years of experience, and how many BIM project you need to be involved in and all that. So it varies from the various tiers, tier 1 to tier 3. So it's quite a detailed kind of a thing. So you have to go to the website to look at this. Then it's easier for a person to make a decision to which tier do we apply. You have to pay a fee for that, but rest assured, we actually cross-check this fee with the rest of the other so-called professionals who are doing accreditation. It's very affordable because our main aim is not so much of to make money, but rather in order to do this, eventually, right? We just started this scheme, but hopefully, towards the end, we get a so-called a critical mass, and whereby we actually have a benchmark system across the whole industry. So that will be a win-win for everybody, both for the individual as well as for companies, as well as for the procurers. Yeah, so that is the aim that we're trying to achieve. Yeah.
And how about students? If is there any scheme for the students as well before they actually hit to tier 4 kind of situation?
Yeah, that's why because of this, we took an effort to actually look at all the IHL that offered the BIM courses, right? Especially the polytechnics, because we want to so-called attract, as the people are shying away from the construction industry and all that. But this actually gives them an opportunity that construction industry, if you come into the digital track, it's actually not that bad. You're not out in the sun all the time and all that. And in fact, we've actually accepted, I think, most of the, if not all the IHL, they are giving the building construction courses and having the BIM courses. We actually accredited them. That means the moment they pass out or graduate from the polytechnics, right, they are automatically given a tier 4 provisional, right? So all they have to do is to work for another 1 year, a total of 1 year, of which some polys having 6 months internship. That is actually considered as part of the 1 year working experience. So once they have this working experience, they come in, they can do an application. And we are now currently, we still have to do a modeling test, but we are actually thinking of whether we can waive this or not. Or whether this is still subject to approval, because we're looking at, as you know, the scheme just started. We want to ensure that we have the confidence level that once we give this accreditation, the applicant is able to do all the tasks.
Okay. That's good to know. Coming from as a student, they know at least there's a provisional tier that they can leverage on, and then create more job opportunities
Right.
when they graduate. Because typically students, when they graduate, there's always this fear of not being able to get into the workforce as one, and also once they graduate, the confidence level of the skill sets that they have learned in poly. Some of us might fear that this may not be good enough for the industry as well. But it's one of those things that when you get into the workforce, you get your hands dirty, you do the groundwork, and that's how from a rookie eventually becoming a veteran at the end of the day. So it's good
Yes.
that we have such a scheme to encourage our younger folks to be in the BE sector and help us grow the competency level. Now, speaking of competency, I think builtSmart, besides being the custodian of this accreditation process, what else does builtSmart Singapore does in this chapter for BSI?
Okay, we are actually, in fact, our members represent the whole cross members involved in the project team in the whole industry. Our members include engineers, even the regulatory agencies as well. We've got BCA, PUB, HDB. They are our members. So we're very in touch with the industry, what's happening. So one of our main aim is also to support any digital initiative that will actually improve especially productivity in the project and in the so-called project cycle. Take for example, all right, as you know, our eConnect system is actually more than 20 years old. Last year is actually upgraded to Connect 2.0, and come end of the year, it's going to be replaced by a completely new regulatory approval process called Connect X. One of the key features of Connect X will be that instead of submitting a BIM model in the native format, which is current Connect 2.0, applicants will require to submit the model in IFC format. Not only IFC, but it's actually an IFC SG. It is a new current standard that Singapore has adopted. So because of this, and as you know, builtSmart is a custodian for IFC, we have actually collaborated with all the so-called BIM vendors, and we are looking at how to roll out courses and solutions on IFC SG to help the firms and modelers to convert their BIM models to IFC format. It sounds easy because traditionally all the native BIM authoring tools have got this, you press a button, you can convert to IFC, but in reality, it is not that straightforward as you think. So there are certain steps and tweaks that we have to do, especially we have come up with the new IFC SG standard. So in fact, we're still working, right, with some of the vendors to roll out this so-called initiative. And at the same time, we also want to collaborate with other vendors, right, to develop and roll out other solutions, mainly on digital delivery, that can help improve the various project process. Right? That means we are looking at certain workflows. Can you come up with certain digital APIs that can hasten the whole process? So we're talking about digital, so-called computational design, and even now AI is a key, right? Whether can we adopt some of these AI technologies to hasten the so-called process that a step may take maybe hours or days, right? You can reduce that to mere an hour or so, right? Instead of it take days to do it. So it's getting more and more interesting, especially because now with AI, you can do so many things. Currently, we're actually talking to a few vendors, and hopefully, if the thing materialize, we have to contribute to this initiative towards the IDD. Yeah.
And I believe there's a summit that is coming. It's the builtSmart summit. Would it be held this year in Singapore, or would it be held elsewhere?
Okay. Okay. builtSmart International hosts actually one main summit whereby it's quite a heavy thing, whereby they actually discuss a lot of technical meetings and all that. And it's an international event whereby all the countries will congregate onto a certain city to do this. They held actually 2 primary meetings, and means 1 summit and 2 other meetings as well. So actually there are 3 international meetings in a year. It's getting more and more popular. We actually applied to get it to run it next year, but unfortunately we are a bit slow. So, however, we already have registered our interest, right, to host a summit in Singapore. Actually, we have done one in 2015, right? Then it was attended by about 150 people, but the so-called it's getting more and more. In fact, the last one was attended by almost 200 to 300 people. So the crowd is getting bigger. So yeah, we actually have registered interest. So hopefully, maybe we should do it in the next probably the next 1 or 2 years. Yeah, we're looking forward to that actually.
Okay. Okay. And if I wish to volunteer myself to help, with the organization, is there any way I can, make myself known, that I wish to become a volunteer when it does come to
So
Singapore?
in fact, we have tweaked our constitution to allow individual membership. So if we are keen, but of course we prefer that you be based in Singapore so that you can have more, your contribution will be much easier. But nevertheless, nowadays, even with the technology and all that, right, you can also contribute even you're overseas. So we don't mind also. So you can actually apply to be a member, all right, not necessarily as a corporate. That means we allow for corporate. Because we started off with corporate membership, and now we actually open up for individual membership. So people with the correct skill set who feel that they want to be part of this, right, you're welcome to join. You just go to builtSmart Singapore website, right? I think the details are there. By the way, we are also looking at revamping our website, so to give it a new, fresh look and more relevant. Yeah, even this podcast will be also be there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So it's good that we are raising awareness that there's a summit. Then at least if individual they are interested to volunteer themselves, they can make themselves known, and then you'll get an army of people to help you organize the summit. It's been almost 45 minutes since we started. The time passes always very fast when we have interesting topic to talk about on the podcast. So William, just thank you for your time, for coming on to our podcast to explain what exactly DDM is all about, and raise this awareness for professionals who wishes to accreditate themselves and then hopefully advance their career, which is everybody's wish, to advance. And there's such an opportunity available that is out there. Thank you so much, William, for joining us on this podcast. Just one last question before we end, which sometimes I ask this kind of questions to our guests. What does builtSmart Singapore hopes to achieve in the coming years? In terms of adoption of the digital transformation.
Hey, actually, all the while we have been supporting the IDD initiative. However, because the early years, IFC is not so rampantly used, unlike in the European countries where they use IFC as open format. However, now with the shift to go towards Coordinate X, IFC suddenly becomes a key feature. So because of that, I think the relevance of the builtSmart becomes more relevant. And as such, we foresee that we will be probably taking a more active role, right, in terms of how to align ourselves or even support the whole IDD initiative. Now, the so-called the digital transformation is ongoing. I mean, I literally see it 20 years ago, right, when we first started. We moved from BIM to VDC or IPD, and then from there we moved to IDD. So the ways of working, we actually changed from working in silos. That means each discipline work on their own, and now, right, the collaborative effort is really the key feature, right? We cannot work in silos anymore. We need to work collaboratively. But if different players are using different softwares, how can that be effective, right? The interoperability issues are, in fact, are there from day one. Right? Since 1995, they have I actually just to resolve this interoperability issue. So until now, it is still there, but hopefully with IFC being the de facto interoperability tool, right? And as the builtSmart is a custodian for this, I see builtSmart Singapore having to have the opportunity to play a more active role, right, in promoting usage of IFC. It will not stop at IFC SG, because as you know, things are developing, and every time we start to do something, we discover a new challenge and how to overcome that. So likewise, even IFC now, the current standard is 4.3, right? builtSmart International is going to develop IFC 5.0. It may take years for it to come, but just to give you a idea that how things are moving on, and it's like everything is a work in progress. You cannot just stop there. But it's good that as you can see, what we're doing now compared to 20 years ago, it is a lot of vast improvement, right? So I think it's actually moving for better, getting better and better. So I think that is a good thing to look forward to. Although I know people are putting a lot of effort and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to know that the future looks bright, and things are always evolving, especially with digital transformation. It never stops. There's always new discovery, new innovation, new processes, new workflows. So it's a never-ending process. It's just about streamlining the whole entire to make it more productive for everyone. So, all right, William, we have come to the end of our podcast. Again, it's an honor to have you to come in to explain to us what DDM is all about, what builtSmart Singapore is doing. Thank you so much for your time. On behalf of the audience, we thank you for your time to join us today. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you again. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on the session on Digitalk with Bimulus. We hope you have gained some insights from the episode and hope you could follow us in our next episode again. Thank you and goodbye.